How do we empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more?
It starts with one.
From one employee to a team, collaborating with another team.
From one partner to their customers, to their customers' customers.
Expanding opportunity.
Earning trust. Protecting fundamental rights.
And advancing sustainability.
For our society.
Our economy. Our world.
That's the impact. That's the impact.
That's the impact each of us can have.
That's our collective opportunity.
220,000 employees.
Empowering 8 billion people on the planet.
We are in a new era of AI,
where we will be able to build as fast as our imagination,
unlock our creativity,
and innovate responsibly.
As we take on society's biggest challenges.
Together, we can ensure these benefits reach
every country, every industry,
and every individual.
When we empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more,
we empower the world.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's fantastic to be back in Rome. I've been coming here throughout my 3+ decades at Microsoft over the years. With all of the different tech platform shifts I've had the privilege to participate in. In fact, I remember the very first time I came here was in the early 90s, when PCs and client server was just being born, and visiting, in fact, at that time, lots of what we would describe as solution providers who were building all these solutions on top of Access for various small businesses in Italy, and then subsequently, obviously, came back here for a bunch of .NET conferences in the web, internet era, and then, of course, mobile cloud, and here we are. In what's, at least for me, the fourth major shift with the AI platform shift. You know, it's always exciting, quite frankly, to be talking about what this technology means, what its impact is in the very early phases of any of these shifts. And so what I wanted to do is spend some time today just kind of giving you a bit of a perspective on at least how we see things evolve from here. It's always, I think, quite frankly, very important to ground ourselves in what's the driving force of something new, right? When something new is in the air, everybody's excited about it, but you kind of have to, in tech in particular, understand what's the driving force. In this case, when it comes to AI, I think the driving force right now, at least we're witnessing, are scaling laws. Very similar to what happened maybe in the PC era or in the server era or even in the cloud era with Moore's Law, which was just an empirical observation that every 18 months you had doubling of performance of compute. You now have something similar happening with AI performance. In fact, one of the things I describe is that the new currency is tokens or performance of AI per dollar per watt. That's the new sort of infrastructure formula for, quite frankly, any region, any country, any company, right? The more you can think of optimizing on that curve, that means you will be on the frontier of it. And so these scaling laws, you could say, started perhaps with deep learning in 2010. So it's been going on for a while, but it inflected around 2018, 2019. Especially with some of the transformer models and application to natural language. And now we have doubling every 6 months or so. And that comes both because of compute, but it also comes because of all the advances in how we use data, both pre-training, post-training, how we use, or how do we tweak the algorithms themselves. So that's really what's empirically being observed, which is this doubling of performance every 6 months. And it manifests, I would say, in 3 dimensions. The first is the user interface of computing. If you think about it, the last 70 years of computing has been about one pursuit, which is, can computers understand us versus us having to understand computers? And I think we finally have that breakthrough. right? It's exactly 2 years ago when we first started playing around with ChatGPT, and now here we are, where whether it's speech input, whether it's text input, whether it's video input and output, you have a new user interface. In fact, the other 70-year pursuit of computing has been increasing levels of digitization of people, places, and things, right? What is information technology? Bill used to always tell me there's only one category. All you do is you get up in the morning, you digitize a lot more artifacts about people, places, and things, and you reason about it, right? We use things like relational algebra and databases in the past. We now have a new tool, which is a neural reasoning engine to find patterns, to predict things using neural algebra, essentially, right? So that's the second thing. And then you can also now have increasing levels of memory and context that you can feed these models. So these three dimensions are what are being used to create a very rich agentic world or an AI world, right? So this manifests in us having personal digital assistants, teams having organizational assistants, the entire business processes, right, for sales or finance having assistants, cross-organizational agents. So this agentic tapestry is getting built because of these advances in scaling laws and the manifestation in more capabilities with each sample of a new model that comes up. Now, of course, this is fantastic. It's all technology. The question is, what are we going to do about it, right? So you have to parlay this. You've got to translate this into real-world impact, right? One community, one country at a time, one industry at a time. And that's what our mission is. At Microsoft, we're very grounded in being able to sort of translate technology advances, these platform shifts, into real-world impact where we can see small businesses, right? In Italy, where we have, I think, a country that is, led in some sense by small businesses, being more productive, large multinationals becoming more competitive globally, public sector becoming more efficient, health outcomes, education outcomes. That's at the end of the day how this technology has to be translated, and that's our mission. And so what we want to talk about is how are we going to go about it? We're going to go about it using essentially three major platforms: Copilot, Copilot Stack and AI Platform, and Copilot devices. And I want to just spend some time talking about each of these platforms. When it comes to Copilot, the best way to conceptualize what are we trying to do here is we are trying to build a UI for AI, right? I mean, if you think about it, in a world where you have millions of agents, the most important organizing layer is going to be what we use to deal with all these agents. And that's what the Copilot layer is, right? I mean, just like on a phone or on a PC, you had the operating system and apps. If you think of all the agents as apps, the operating system in this case happens to be Copilot, right? That's the way to think about the organizing layer, right? So this UI for AI. Now, one of the fascinating things that we find is with any new platform, you even have new artifacts that are born, right? Back in the day when the PCs were first born, you had graphical user interfaces, and we had Word and Excel and PowerPoint. And just like that, today we have a new artifact, which we call Pages, right? So when I think about even my daily habit today, I go to Copilot, I retrieve information from my work or from the web. In fact, I do a join between it, right? When I say I'm preparing for a customer meeting, I want to know everything from the web about that customer, as well as all the internal documents about that customer, mails, messages, everything. And then, of course, I want to put it into something like Pages. And then share it with my colleagues. In fact, the new workflow is I think with AI and I collaborate with my colleagues. Right? So that's going to be the new way we are going to think about work. So this is web, work, and Pages. Now, it is built on top of sort of a real agentic world framework. So this is what we call the Copilot Studio plus agent. So in other words, Copilot Studio is your low-code, no-code tool. Just like in the past, you would use Excel to build a spreadsheet, program, put some formulas and macros or what have you. Similarly, every one of us will just use Copilot Studio to be able to create agents. And these agents are being powered by the richest data set, right? So that means the most important database in most organizations happens to be the database in which you have all your emails, your messages, your project files, your documents, all of that's in a graph database. You then combine it with, in fact, all the business applications data, front office, back office data, and all the analytics information you have, right? So you have all this rich data on top of which you can build agents, and these agents dock with Copilot, right? That's the new workflow. And in some sense, you have the ability to both initiate a workflow and also get an exception from a workflow. And so that's really, if you look at this ambient video, this is a field service agent that was built. And it's as simple as I go in, give it a system prompt. I say, be a field service agent. And then on top of that, I give it some knowledge sources. In this case, I give it a SharePoint site. And then I also ground it in this field service databases inside of Dynamics. That's it. So I point, click, and effectively create an agent that is a field service agent, now which shows up as an agent inside of my Copilot. And I can use it as if I was using a field service application. This idea that you go to various business applications goes away. You just stay in Copilot, and the business application and the workflow comes to you in Copilot. So that's the new world of work and workflow and work artifacts. Now, the thing that we are seeing is real impact of all of this, right? The real impact of all of this is productivity. In fact, right at Microsoft, using these systems, we are seeing double-digit growth in our sales productivity, in our marketing productivity. I mean, think about it. I'd never realized this, but just creating a high-quality marketing brief artifact can just improve the overall quality of marketing inside of an organization. When it comes to all the self-service things we do, whether it's in customer service, in HR ops, or IT ops, right? Because a lot of that is any organization has self-service. We're seeing, again, double-digit performance improvements. And then we're saving a lot of money when it comes to legal and finance, right? So across the length and breadth of the Microsoft business processes, right? This is not about someday in the future. This is operating leverage today. In our P&L as we speak. And that, by the way, is also being realized not just by Microsoft. This is the fastest diffusion rate I have seen of this technology across all these 4 platform shifts where customers everywhere around the world, in fact, there is no difference. What's happening in Italy is no different than the West Coast of the United States or anywhere else in the world in some sense, because people are able to get to this technology as fast as anyone else and use it by just really experimenting, doing at scale. And so we are seeing fantastic examples of it across all of these functions. And right here this morning, I had a chance to sort of talk to a lot of customers who are using this. So we have people from CNH Industrial, Ferrero, Montclair, all using it. But I was very impressed with what Campari is doing. In fact, it's fantastic to see them use everything from Copilot to Viva to, in fact, Copilot Studio and Dynamics and bring their marketing workflows. And the most interesting thing is how they're using Viva to make sure that by cohort of their employees are being empowered with these new tools in order to drive productivity. So let's roll the video to give you a flavor for what they're doing.
In a world of increasing complexity, AI and generative AI are strategic allies to create business value. Technology can unlock all its transformational power with a learning mindset. In Campari, we are aware of this, and in our AI adoption path, we've always invested in people engagement and training. Our modern workplace journey, powered by the productivity and collaboration cloud platform Microsoft 365, was designed to empower Camparistas with a hybrid work environment and with the right tools to work smarter. To this extent, we are building on previous work by utilizing Copilot to enable Camparistas to adopt and develop effective ways of working with technology, increasing their productivity in today's hybrid workplace. From early on, we created a community around Copilot with the goal of discovering together how Gen AI could bring value in our business context. We deliver training to onboard Camparistas, followed with multiple hands-on sessions, hackathons, and weekly collaboration opportunities. Furthermore, we extended Copilot usage through intranet announcements, with testimonial from business leaders and external stimulation. To support adoption, we also addressed Camparistas' concerns through our GenAI usage policies, which were developed in close collaboration with our global legal and security teams. So far, Camparistas regularly using Copilot saved about 2 hours weekly by executing tasks more quickly, producing high-quality work, and learning new skills.
So that's a great example of how one organization is able to use this tool, and I think this approach, because one of the things I describe this as lean for knowledge work, right? Just like industrial companies practiced lean in order to improve their efficiency and productivity, you can think of this as lean for knowledge work. So it also means you have to approach it with a certain methodology and change management. And so I think that what they're doing is fantastic in that respect. Now, we're not stopping there. We're getting to the next phase of this. And it starts with autonomous agents. So we are very, very thrilled earlier this week to launch the next phase of Copilot and Copilot Studio, where now you can use Copilot Studio to build autonomous agents, right? So these agents can both dock with Copilot, but can also work independently of Copilot. And of course, when you have an autonomous agent, it does, from time to time, get into issues. And when it gets into issues, guess what? It has to stop and then get back to a person through Copilot, right? So it has to raise an exception, because the world will always have, let's say we have millions of agents, and they have issues from time to time, they have to raise an exception, and the exception handler is Copilot. And so that's sort of the workflow between even autonomous agents and Copilot. So it's not about one or the other. And so we're also launching 10+ Copilot autonomous agents. Everything from supplier communication, sales qualification. I mean, think about what a salesperson's productivity would look like with having just essentially an autonomous sales qualifier. Or accounting reconciliation or financial reconciliation, like some autonomous agents that are continuously working on your behalf or your organization's behalf. So we are launching 10 of these. And so the idea is for us to then usher in everyone around sort of the ecosystem to be building millions of these autonomous agents, and yet having them all participate in this workflow of Copilot, Copilot Studio. To show you all of this in action, I wanted to invite up on stage my colleague, Jared Spadaros. Jared, come on up.
Thank you, Satya, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm sure you're very familiar with McKinsey & Company, the global consulting firm. McKinsey, as they look at their business, thinks that client experience is everything, and they're always trying to improve. So imagine our delight when they decided to partner with us to create an autonomous agent, like Satya described, to improve what they call the client onboarding experience. It all starts with an email like the one you see behind me. Now, in just a moment, you'll see this email appear, and that email specifically essentially starts the beginning of a process. We'll go back one. There we go. There's our email. It begins the process of the onboarding of a brand new customer. Now, traditionally, this email has been received by a human who's meant to parse through it. They read through the email, figure out what it's all about, and then figure out the McKinsey partner who is meant to take on the engagement. But McKinsey has created an autonomous agent that gets to work as soon as a new email comes in. When that email comes in, it springs into action, as you see here, and begins to execute a series of steps. These steps allow it to parse through the email to essentially pull out the most important information and then to do some checks in its own system, looking, for instance, at an industry taxonomy, looking at the expertise that will be required to answer this client inquiry. When it has all that information in hand, it can then begin its work of writing up an email to the proper McKinsey partner. Now, as we'll see here, it summarizes all the information that's required so that that partner can then take the next step. Now, that happens so fast, it's worth pausing just for a moment to review what the autonomous agent is doing. It essentially has been given a set of very simple instructions, operating guidelines, and it can then use those instructions to parse through essentially the messiness of human language to determine how it should proceed. What you see here, however, is only half the magic. The other part of the magic comes when we look at how easy it is to actually create these autonomous agents. And for that, we're going to go behind the scenes to take a look at Copilot Studio. Here in Copilot Studio, we see how we program up the agent. It's not with a sophisticated programming language, but instead with natural language, the way that you would delegate a task to a human who is meant to do it. You can see that the steps are outlined. Now, what makes this agent autonomous is that we give it what we call triggers. These triggers allow the agent to listen for certain events and then take action, like when the email comes in. And here you can see that it's actually listening for an email to come into the inbox. But of course, you can set triggers for any number of events across any number of systems. Here you can add, for instance, triggers across SharePoint or other line of business systems. Just like a person, you can add knowledge to the agent. And this particular agent has been given knowledge in the form of a Word document, a SharePoint site, and a database. But you can add other sources of information as well. And you see those here, line of business systems like SAP or ServiceNow or even Microsoft Fabric. Now from here, you complete the programming of the agent by essentially going in and giving it specific actions that it can perform. And we saw that as it went through the steps. That allows the agent to know what to do. You can choose from over 1,500 connectors that are available so that the agent then can work across systems. Now, what's exciting here is that these agents don't scale like people. We saw one email come in, and the agent handled that one email. But if we go quickly over to the Activity tab here, we will see that it can handle dozens of incoming inquiries at the same time. In fact, it has handled almost 1,300 up to this point, and it has 33 in flight right now. So we're excited because this essentially allows us to scale the operations of a firm like never before. But as Satya said, even though there's so much that these agents can do, they can't do everything. And every once in a while, they get stuck. They need human help. To take a look at what happens, we'll pick the second one from the top here. It's a particular process that's in flight. And as we go down, we'll see that the agent has gotten stuck. Looking into it, we see that it's identified the right partner in this case within McKinsey to send the email to, but that partner has now left the firm. It doesn't know what to do. Luckily, it's been instructed that the next thing to do is to escalate to a manager. And here you'll see that that instruction helps it to move directly to the manager who can give it additional input. Now, for this input, we will now switch over to the interface, as Satya said, in Copilot. Here at the bottom right of the screen, you'll see a notification pop up. And then Copilot can essentially give the context required for the manager to provide the input that is needed. Once the manager writes in Henry Brill, which is the new person to route it to, the agent has everything that it needs to complete the task. It finishes the last step, and on the right-hand side, it actually logs what has happened, thus completing the task from beginning to end. Now, we're excited about what you see here because McKinsey, in the trial of this particular agent, has been able to cut 90% of what it calls its lead time, trimming overall administrative overhead by 30%. We're not only excited about what we can do here, but we're excited that in the future, we will see essentially a constellation of various agents that will be used for individuals, for teams, and for entire functions as they go to streamline what they do. Remember, Copilot Studio is the place that you create these agents, and Copilot is the best place to interact with them. We are so looking forward to see what you do with this technology. And to give you a sense for what some of our early adopters are doing already today, we have a couple of examples that we want to show you. Let's roll the video.
At Unilever, we believe there is a huge opportunity in the end-to-end marketing model to leverage Copilot, transforming a largely manual part of our marketing process, the brief.
At the brief kickoff meeting, without even prompting, Copilot could begin to gather all of the relevant content across data sources. It could create a first draft, And when that's ready, share it with relevant stakeholders for their review. We call this smart briefing. That's quite powerful.
This is not just about embracing change. It's about strategically positioning Clifford Chance for the future while maintaining our core mission of delivering superior legal service. The Copilot agent, working alongside the lawyer, can autonomously identify risks, confirm the inclusion of required documents, and notify stakeholders of next steps.
That just allows me and my team to be free and available to deal with much more complex issues. So the concept that you could have your own personal compliance agent is so exciting.
The beautiful thing about Copilot agents is it can connect into our existing ecosystem. When a potential fraud scenario is identified, the agent will autonomously go and gather the relevant information from that source system, perform an analysis, and provide that analysis back to the fraud colleague. That always ensures that a human's in the loop. We actually built a working prototype in the space of a week.
It enables us to operate at scale and at speed, efficiently, accurately. It allows us to take control over areas that we need to be focusing on to improve our customer experience.
So that's fantastic to see the progress that's being made with Copilot, Copilot Studio, and agents, and now autonomous agents. In fact, when I was looking at that video, I was reminded of meeting the young woman from Clifford Chance, who's a lawyer, and who was saying that I'm so fed up of all the M&A activity because I want to streamline all the document creation. And she just did it, right? So this is about her taking hold of these tools and creating agents and really streamlining her own workflow so that there's less drudgery and more satisfaction with the work that she was doing. So that's the type of empowerment that I think we all are seeing already. So now I want to move to the next platform, which is Copilot Stack and the AI platform. In fact, we're taking everything that you've seen up to now, which is what we use to build Copilot, Copilot Studio, and the agents themselves, and are exposing every layer of that tech stack for developers everywhere, right? So the idea is to take what we used and make it available for every developer out there. And that's what the Copilot Stack and the AI platform is about. And it starts with infrastructure. When we say we are building out Azure as the world's computer, that means really laying out this distributed computing fabric all around the world, right? We have 60+ regions in the world. We have the region in Italy that is growing. In fact, just a few weeks ago, we announced that we're going to invest 4.3 billion euros to expand our footprint in Italy. We are very, very excited about it. It goes, in fact, not just for the investment in the infrastructure, but it's also the investment in skilling. And when we talk about AI infrastructure, even there, the innovation is across every layer. It starts with silicon. We're working with our partners, whether it's NVIDIA or AMD, as well as our own silicon, Maya. They're all coming together. In fact, some of the advances in cooling that we have done around Maya are the things that we will even use for the latest fleet with GB200s that are already in our labs. So that's the type of work that we will do to bring the best silicon, optimize that silicon with all the system software so that you have those token factories or intelligence factories. And then right next to sort of AI infrastructure, you need to have your data. In fact, there's gravity. Compute has gravity where data will go where compute is. And in this case, it's even going to even be more pronounced for AI. And so the idea here is to be able to help you lift pretty much all of your data, whether it's in Oracle, whether it's in Snowflake, whether it's in Databricks, rendezvous it with your AI compute. And then on top of that, we are building what I describe as AI-first data estates, both for OLTP, what we're doing with Cosmos DB, for example. When you look at ChatGPT, underneath ChatGPT is Cosmos DB for all their session data. SQL or Postgres. So we are doing a fantastic job of bringing all of the databases for OLTP such that they're great for AI workloads. And the analytics workload. With Fabric, I think it's a fundamental breakthrough where you have this one lake architecture on top of which you can spin any meter, right? Whether it is Spark, whether it's SQL, or whether it's AI. So that idea that you can now have an analytics store and an analytics capabilities that all stack up. So that's our AI-first analytics database. And then the next to it is Purview, which is about governance, right? Because in an AI age, perhaps one of the most important considerations is compliance and data governance. And so that's why we really think of not just the database technology, but even the data governance as a first-class workload. And so we are bringing all of these together in the data estate. Now, you have your infrastructure, you have your data, and then you're ready to start building applications. And it starts with your traditional app services. Again, if you go back to something like Copilot or ChatGPT, the underlying compute starts with AKS, right? So you have to have a container service, you have Azure Functions. So all of these traditional app services for cloud-native app development is where every developer starts. And then on top of that, we are building out a first-class AI app server with Azure AI Studio. It starts, in fact, with having the richest model catalog, right? So obviously, OpenAI models, even the latest models with O1 are fantastic. They're the leading models. But you go all the way from OpenAI models to Llama, to Mistral, to Cohere. So we have the broadest selection of models for you to be able to use on Azure. And then the thing that you do once you have the models is you prompt them. So you create workflows called prompt flow around these models. You do RLHF, right? So you do reinforcement learning based on human feedback. You do fine-tuning or supervised fine-tuning on top of these models. So you have all the tools to be able to exercise all of those options on top of those models. Now you have the model, you fine-tune the model, then you want to deploy it inside of an application. You want to do things like retrieval augmented generation. So we have built all the tools like Azure Search so that you can take data, put it into create embeddings, then search those embeddings, retrieve the data, then to be able to use it in a prompt in order to be able to get the LLM to do predictions or continuations, right? So that's all, again, built into the app server. And then, in fact, we have all the guardrails for safety. So that's the length and breadth of what is happening with an AI app server. And then the last thing is tools. In fact, from 1975 to now, Microsoft has taken great pride in one thing, which is to build the best tool chain for software developers, right? That's how we got started. And today, with VS Code and GitHub and GitHub Copilot, we have the best tool chain for software developers. In fact, we're very, very excited about the latest O1 release inside of GitHub Copilot, where you now have, if you look at this ambient video, it's actually pretty cool, which is it's showing how O1 is helping optimize the tokenizer we use inside of GitHub Copilot, right? I mean, think about how recursive and meta it is, right? It's basically an AI that's helping an AI tool get optimized. So that's I think what the future of software development is. It went from, hey, this is interesting, to this is standard issue. There's, in fact, even in Italy, when I sort of look at the number of people who are using GitHub, and is 1.2 million developers right here on GitHub, and many, many of them already using GitHub Copilot and the advanced. In fact, GitHub Universe, I think, is in a week's time, and we're excited about all the things that are coming as the next wave. Now, we have lots of customers already and partners already doing fantastic things. I had a chance to meet many of them. I had a chance to meet with Brembo, which is into building these braking systems. And they, in fact, they were using Copilot and a lot of other things. But the fascinating thing they showed me is how they are using AI to essentially discover new compounds to reduce friction in the braking systems, right? So this is about core part of their science itself being transformed using AI. I had a chance to meet with Italy's biggest unicorn startup, iGenius, where they're doing some fascinating work in terms of just democratizing access to analytics and information when it comes to financial services and regulated industries, but even in pharmaceuticals and others. It's great to see the progress that they're making. I had a chance to meet even with Vita San Rafael, which is a research institution doing some fantastic work around cancer, early detection of cancer, and also how to ensure, ultimately, when it comes to something like cancer, it's about being able to do personalized medicine of the protocols themselves so that you can get the best outcomes. Again, tremendous use of AI. And then I had a chance to meet the mayor of Rome and see the new Julia virtual assistant that's being built for any tourist coming to Rome, especially with Jubilee coming up. I think that this is going to be a fantastic way for any tourist to be able to have a chance to see this ancient city in its modern form. So let's roll the video to give you a flavor for what they're building.
Rome is a global tourist capital. Our tourists have 50 million nights in Rome during the year.
All the visitors get their information through digital channels, driven by ads or by clickbait.
It takes a lot of work to understand what is the credible information.
So we need a more intelligent digital partner to help tourists better know all the hidden gems of the city.
Giulia is a personal advisor that you have in your pocket. You can use WhatsApp, then ask Giulia, what can I do this evening in Rome? Or I'm in front of something very beautiful, but I don't know anything about it. Can you explain something?
It's like a single point of access for all the way to experience Rome. When a user makes a request, the query is sent to a layer of reasoning. We're using Azure OpenAI's GPT-4o to manage the interaction.
The information that you find on Giulia coming from the players, the owners of the restaurant, the owners of the hotel.
You will have a more level playing field for all the stakeholders, putting all the beauty, all the variety, all the layers of history, of art, of nature at the service of our guests.
This project will be open with the start of the Jubilee. Our hope for Giulia is to get people happy to stay in Rome. If you decide to visit Rome, there is an emotional investment. We want to take care of people that choose Rome.
It's great to see that. Quite frankly, I was thinking, in fact, when they showed me the demo, I said, hey, create a personal tour of all the Caravaggio paintings in Rome. And it came back with a fantastic itinerary. And the next time I'm here, that's the thing that I'll definitely follow. It's great to see, I think, all of these technologies getting used. And I wanted to just make that point again, that the rate of diffusion, right? The fact that you can have something like a tourist assistant get built at the same time as a material science breakthrough, right? Just to think about it. When was the last time you saw a general purpose technology that had that depth and breadth and that speed with which it could transform everything from deep science to the everyday experience of a tourist? And so that, I think, is what is happening right in front of our eyes. And that's what I think makes this perhaps very different than even what came before. Now, the last platform I want to talk about is the Copilot devices. We talked about all of the scaling laws, all the silicon innovation, the AI innovation that's happening all in the cloud. But by the way, distributed computing will always remain distributed. In fact, I think that the next phase of the systems innovation will be at the edge, where you are, in fact, we're doing exactly what we did in the cloud now when it comes to even these edge devices, starting with the PC. We have our silicon partners, again, from Qualcomm to AMD to Intel and others doing some fantastic work of bringing CPUs, GPUs, and NPUs, right? These NPUs which have 45 tops, to be able to sort of then have a distributed AI fabric between the cloud and the edge. And that's, I think, the key. This is not about here is a client and here is cloud, they're disconnected. The idea is any app developer is able to use the fabric that is distributed between the edge and the cloud. And that's what we expect, whether it's Copilot or Adobe or any video editing tool or even gaming, right, where you can now have full tilt on GPU and use NPU. And so that's what I think that the next generation of applications will be. And to just give you a flavor for the innovation coming to Copilot Plus PCs, let's roll the video. So those were the 3 platforms that we're building so that you all can build more technology on top of these platforms and transform your broad society around us. Now, perhaps the most important consideration around any new technology is trust. And trust is not something that you claim, but it's something that you earn. And so we take this as a very important piece of the work we do. And it starts with the commitments we make, right? These are commitments around privacy, around security, and AI safety. So we are very, very clear about the commitments we made. But more importantly, it's the progress we make with the capabilities we deliver on those commitments, right? Because that's ultimately the real test. When it comes to even something like privacy, we want to make sure that you have, the best technology. Like, for example, take security. If you're launching a new model, one of the things you want to do is the adversarial attacks on these new models so that you can simulate even what may be the adverse issues or the cyber criminals and their activity, right? So that you are well prepared for it. So that's kind of an example of what we're doing now, and it's built into that AI platform I talked about. When it comes to AI safety, for example, we are building all these guardrails, right? One of the issues with LLMs is hallucination. So one way to use AI is to, in fact, do the groundedness eval, right? All of AI is always about evaluation metrics. So you now have an eval for groundedness, right? So that's just another example of how software developers can use these tools in order to ensure that you are even testing for hallucinations in any new model. When it comes to privacy, confidential computing, in fact, even in use in the cloud, you can ensure that your data is not being used anywhere else other than where you have given it permission for. And so these are all things where we are making real-world commitments and, more importantly, capability progress. Now, I want to close out by saying ultimately this is about it comes back to our mission to empower every person and every organization right here in Italy to be able to achieve more. We are very, very hopeful that this technology, this general purpose technology, with the rate of diffusion, is going to have a profound impact in this economy, in this society, not because of what we do, but quite frankly, because of what all of you do on top of this technology. So I'm looking forward to coming back here again and again to see the rate of progress given the possibilities. Thank you all very, very much.
We find ourselves in a new era. One where access to information is access to expertise. From the farm to the lab, from the boardroom to the classroom, this new generation of AI is for everyone, everywhere. Now anyone can save time with a personal assistant.
With GitHub Copilot, I'm saving about 50% of time, and that's time that I can use to do other innovative things.
Copilot helps with faster administrative project turnaround times while making sure we're providing the highest quality legal advice.
Anyone can access a personal tutor to learn new skills.
It's like a mentor. Siemens Industrial Copilot takes existing code and describes what it does in natural language.
Et Copilot va nous aider à interroger des bases de données en répondant à des questions simples qu'on va lui poser pour nous faire des résumés d'une information existante qui va se trouver dans plusieurs bases de données.
This is a new way to analyze with a personal coach.
We're going to be able to have not only productivity gains, but insights served to us near real time.
Within fraud, we have to move quickly, accurately, and in the ethical way. This technology is a fraud fighter's dream.
AI is unlocking creativity for us all.
Descriptions are so detailed. In my imagination, I can paint the artwork.
Our virtual assistant is providing all the beauty of history, of art, of nature, to help everybody better understanding all the hidden gems of the city.
And we are just getting started.
Please welcome CMO, Commercial Cloud and AI, Microsoft, Elisa Taylor.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. It is fantastic to be here today.
And it's incredible to see so many leaders across so many organizations joining us here. And we recognize and know how busy each and every one of you are, and so we're honored that you have chosen to spend the day with us. And so to make the most of this session, I want to do 3 things following Satya. The first is I want to continue to pull forward the innovation agenda that he just walked us through and talk about the possibilities of AI. I want to then translate that into how that possibility is delivering directly on business value. And then I want to share some stories to hopefully spark some imagination and some creativity along the way. But before we jump in, I always find it helpful to ground in how did we get here in this moment in time? It's interesting because in our lifetime, there have been 3 major technological shifts. The first was the onset of the internet, which gave us universal access to information in a way that mankind had never seen before. Then came the smartphone, and it took all of that information and it put it in our hands and gave us 24/7 availability. Then ubiquitous compute, which fundamentally changed how organizations operated globally. But today, what we see with each one of those shifts, we saw greater and greater possibility, but what stayed constant was human capacity. And that human capacity was the thing that was the most limited in all of those shifts. In fact, globally, our productivity growth has been relatively flat for decades, which is kind of unbelievable if you think about it. And so this is where I would argue this next shift, this next technological shift that we've been talking about, where we are today in this moment of time, is the greatest one we will see. Because not only does it unleash human creativity and productivity, but it will reshape, fundamentally reshape industries across the board. But we also know that for us, and you've heard Satya just talk about that when we think about AI, we think about that possibility of AI as a human companion, unleashing, unlocking human creativity. And that manifests itself in Copilot. We talk about the 3 platforms of Copilot, what we offer from our first-party services, the Copilot and AI platform, and our Copilot devices. And those platforms, when you bring them together, they are unlocking value in some very unique ways for organizations. In fact, we see 4 areas. We see organizations being able to not only improve employee productivity, but also well-being. We see being able to reimagine and re-engage with customers in very new ways. Also, reshaping business processes, legacy business processes, and then unleashing innovation. So I want to spend a minute and talk about each one of these areas, starting with employee productivity and well-being. Now, this is important not only to all of you in the room, but to all leaders across the world, because right now, our workforce is in somewhat of a crisis. 68% of workers today, this is a global stat, struggle to keep up with the pace of work. And conversely, almost half, 46%, are experiencing burnout. And that gets even more acute in areas like healthcare with physician burnout. If you look at that specifically in the EU, the good news is you're doing better than the global average at 60%, but it still translates to 60 hours of lost productivity every given year. So it's not only a workforce problem, but it is also how organizations, the productivity of organizations at large. But there are a number of organizations that are actually working to combat this. And one of my favorite stories is Volvo. Volvo is an iconic automotive brand. I happen to drive a Volvo, so I happen to be partially affinitive to this. But Volvo had a very specific problem with their service technicians. Their service technicians were tasked with taking all of this disparate information and manually gathering it to create a customer invoice. That sometimes would be in a handwritten document, in an email, in a third-party invoice. And so gathering all of that was not only manual, but incredibly tedious. And so Volvo's IT department created the Intelligent Document Solution. And what that Intelligent Document Solution did was, using Azure AI and cognitive services, it was actually able to reason over all of this disparate information, scan it, collate it into a unified invoice. And then, as we talk about, because the human is still at the center, the service technician could review it, actually look for inaccuracies, and then once approved, put it in front of the customer. And this solution saved thousands of man-hours. And the great thing about this story is Volvo was tracking how this solution was impacting the organization. And they reported 3 things. First, they were getting invoices into the hands of their customers faster, which was making sure that their accounts receivable was happening quicker. They saved and tracked over 10,000 manual hours from their service technician. That was 850 hours every month since the inception of that solution. And then lastly, they were tracking the job satisfaction of their service technicians, which actually increased since they introduced the solution. And so that is the reason I love this story, is it's not only about the business benefit, the savings, the productivity savings, but then also giving time back to those service technicians so they could spend time with customers, which is what their job was centered around. And so that is a great example of an organization not only using AI for employee productivity, but also improving well-being. But equally important to the employees that you all serve is the customers and the customer expectations that we're seeing today. And it's fascinating because we are in such a unique period of time where customer expectations are the highest they've ever been. If you look at this, 50% of EU customers expect highly tailored, personalized interactions with the brands that serve them. 90% expect omni-channel experience, so a seamless integration between the digital experience and when they interact with a store physically. 90%. That's a pretty high stat. And so when you think about how do you use AI to do just that, there's a retailer that has been tasked with really coming up with some very unique ways to tackle both the personalization and the omni-channel. And so let's hear from ASOS directly. Please roll the video.
ASOS is a fashion company. Our target audience is 20-somethings, a very technology-familiar audience, always on social media, always on their phones. And so they want and they demand the best customer experiences, the most friction-free shopping experience. The Fashion Stylist is a new way to help our customers discover our fashion.
The goals within the engineering team are to provide a scalable, reliable, safe, responsible AI feature to our customers. We train our existing personalized product recommendation engine on a daily basis using Azure ML. So this is just a natural extension of all of those technologies coming together with Azure OpenAI service.
We started thinking about this product when we started understanding some of the large language models that are now available to create a real live conversation with customers. We've co-developed the Fashion Stylist with Microsoft.
Imagine if our customer is going to a wedding, maybe it's in a country abroad, maybe it's a certain type of year, and they want inspiration for what to wear to this occasion. So you could definitely type in that scenario and get an incredible amount of responses back.
The prompt flow is used to collect user preferences amongst the customer to come up with a structured output that will be used to query our production pipelines. The specificity of our ASOS Fashion Stylist is that we have closely collaborated with our fashion design teams, and so they get to input their own prompt to update the knowledge of ChatGPT.
Building trustworthy and responsible AI applications is a core principle of us building generative AI and ML technology at ASOS.
The AI content safety layer will trigger and block the prompt whenever it contains an example of violence, self-harm, or any other problematic topic.
One of the advantages of using these technologies within Azure has been that the time to deployment and the time to the first prototype took us a matter of weeks. So the tools have really helped us to engineer the solution much quicker, more cost efficiently, with lower investment from a kind of engineering perspective.
Our future vision for visual search would be that if I see something amazing on a social platform that I want to recreate myself, I could then upload an image into the AI assistant and ASOS would serve up all the different options for me to create that look for myself.
The fashion stylist is helping us creating a conversation with our customers to help them discover their style and discover our fashion in a seamless, friction-free way.
So the very unique thing that you saw there is ASOS was able to, A, understand their customer, take their social preferences, marry that with available inventory, and create those experiences through the fashion stylist. So it's a great example of being able to have that very tailored experiences in a very unique way. But the other interesting thing that we talked about was the omni-channel experience and how important it is to bridge the physical and digital. And I'm very excited to be joined by Olga Lembreres, who's going to show us how to create an AI-empowered store assistant. Olga, thank you. Welcome for being here.
Thank you, Alyssa. I love how ASOS is helping people realize their personal style. What a great example of how retail is evolving. Another example is how retail associates are engaging customers in store. Imagine walking into your favorite retail store, eyes set on the blue dress that you just saw in the window. I'm not really much of a browser, so I head straight for the retail associate to ask my questions. Is that blue dress in the window available in my size? Are the online promotions available in store? What's your return policy? What if I could show you in a few easy steps how you can create a retail assistant that could help your associates and create a great experience for your customers? Let's jump in. So within Copilot Studio, I select the template for store operations. I'm calling this My Retail Store Assistant. Now, you don't have to be a tech wizard because it comes pre-populated with templates and it uses natural language so you can configure it for your store. From here, I am able to add various knowledge sources that the associates can search right at their fingertips. For example, if I add the company SharePoint, that gives you access to the policies and procedures like, what is the return policy? Or, how do I create a return? Also, remember the question I asked about if the online promotions were available in store? No problem. By connecting to the company store website, I am able to find the promotion and then offer it in store. Pretty cool, right? Additionally, within topics, I can add a topic, I can edit a topic, I can turn it on or off. So if I turn on the product inventory, the associate can actually look to see if the dress is available in the store I'm in or in surrounding stores, all while staying in a natural language interface and not flipping between applications. So there you have it. Your retail store assistant is ready. The next part is where the magic happens. You're able to connect your retail store assistant to Microsoft Teams, where the store employees work in every single day. From here, it's available in the App Store. So I promised you at the beginning, the demo, that if you customized a retail store assistant for your associates, you could help them easily find the dress that I saw in the store window, assure me that there's a great return policy in case I got home and I didn't love it, and honor the promotions online in the store. By the way, I did decide to keep the dress. So with that, you have your retail store assistant. Not only does it create a more impactful shopping experience, but it helps the associate better engage with the customer. Happy shopping. Thank you.
So that was, I think, a great demonstration, both from ASOS and what Olga shared, of being able to create that omni-channel experience. When I talked about employees and both what we're doing with customers, underlying all of this is business process. And I think we would all say that business processes can be sometimes cumbersome to businesses at large, whether that be manual processes, lack of automation, complex workflows. And we're actually seeing AI break through in some really unique ways here, being able to decrease the number of hours needed to onboard an employee, giving us new insight into inventory and stock, being able to automatically handle traffic in something like a customer service environment, being that first triage. This is where AI is fundamentally reshaping legacy business processes. And this is important because it not only can make an organization more operationally efficient, it also can save time and money. But the last area I want to talk about is innovation and the way that AI is reshaping innovation. This is an incredible area for us, not only because of what's possible, but actually what we see possible for society. And when you combine where we are in the world with compute technology, coupled with new generative AI, it is pretty astounding what we are going to see transpire. So with that, please roll the video.
The Azure Quantum Compute Platform. Engineered for accelerating scientific discovery. Designed to transform the way we live, work, build. A powerful compute platform with seamless integration of best-in-class hardware and advanced quantum error correction. Advance your research and molecular modeling with custom AI models for science. Use natural language with a copilot to train the future workforce. Effortlessly design and optimize quantum algorithms, and develop the next generation of quantum applications. Discover your quantum future today.
And where this gets really interesting, if you think about, if you just take energy, and we know that the world is facing an energy crisis today. Even here at Microsoft, we contract a number of renewable energy sources, but we also know the importance of finding new energy. Last year, we partnered with the US Department of Energy's Pacific Northwest Labs, and using the quantum technology you just saw in that video, coupled with AI, we were able to create the first ever synthetic molecule. And that synthetic molecule will be used in the next generation of electric batteries. And while we all know that electric cars are good for the environment, electric batteries are not. And so that compound that was not a matter that was not known to man will actually replace up to 60% of the traditional lithium in the next generation of electric batteries. And that's just scratching the surface of what's possible with AI. When you think about cures for infectious disease, chemical, new drug discovery, the actual limits, the possibility is limitless, which is very, very exciting. But as Satya talked about, all of these things, whether we're talking about new workforce, new customer experiences, business process, new innovation, it's underscored by our commitment to trustworthy AI. And as Satya talked about, it is this combination of our commitments to each one of you around safety, security, and privacy, combined with the hundreds of new capabilities that we are bringing to market to help do things like detect hallucinations in a model, PII, both detection and redaction, as well as being able to intercept harmful prompt text in the models themselves. So all of this is our commitment to trustworthy AI, and we will continue to build that out, continuing to build on our commitments, continuing to build the capabilities so that you can build the most secure, safe, and private solutions. So I want to end with where I started, which is thank you. A heartfelt thank you for taking the time, being with us on this journey, partnering with us, learning along the way. And I hope I was able to spark a little bit of imagination around what's possible with AI. And I'm going to leave you with one last video, which is a global brand that has local roots here in Italy that is using AI to engage with their audiences and foster community. Please roll the video. Thank you.